You're about to listen to Kelly Martin Speaks. I'm your host Kelly, and the author of When Everyone Shines But You, a mental health and self-acceptance blogger and a recovering darkness addict. I have experienced intense anxiety, deep depression and life trauma, but I'm coming out of the other side now. Darkness was a comfort zone for me for a long time, and it felt safer than the light. So in this podcast I share with you my journey into the light and how I move through challenge in an empowering way. I'll share with you tools and nurturing ways to embrace your humanity. I was once a shy, scared introvert, afraid to speak, but that's all changing. Let's take this journey together and learn to fly. Hi there, welcome back to Kelly Martin Speaks. I'm your host Kelly Martin and this is episode 64. Now today I'm going to talk about all the roles that we play in life, and are we holding on to roles that need to change? Have you ever looked at your life and wondered if the roles that you wear are inhibiting your ability to live a satisfying life? Are the roles you wear holding you back? I've worn many roles in my life. Many of them, I guess you could say, really negative stories. I felt I had to wear some of these roles to keep me safe from perceived harm. Others helped me believe on the surface that I was doing okay, and when I clearly wasn't. I guess I've worn a mirage of roles, sharing many illusions with the world around me and even towards myself, how I view myself within the role. Now, every role that we take on, it tries to prove something about us. It is trying to signal different things. It could be that we have a role that has been created to show the world that we are confident when inside we are not. It could be to show the world that we are abundant or prosperous when we may feel incredibly poor. Or it could even be to simply show the world that we are a good person, even when inside we feel we are a bad person. Now, some roles are essential. The labels we give them are things like mother, father, daughter, sister. They are labels we use to identify our place in our family of origin. But even those roles can be used in a negative way. For example, as a teenager, my sister was born. There is a 13-year age gap between us. I was aged 13, and it was a really hard time for me. Now, between the age of 13 and 14 and onwards, my mother would tell me to behave, to be a good sister. And if there were any problems, she would say, "You should know better." It didn't matter that as my sister got older, she was a bit of a brat in many ways. She was very spoiled, always got what she wanted. But even if she had made choices to disrupt my life, I had to be the grown-up. Even though I was not a grown-up, I was still a child myself. My mother, in a way, placed me in a role of second parent to my sister. And because of this, I feel this is why my sister does not really see me as a sister, but more of a parental figure, and possibly not a good parental figure based on past experience. And if we wear roles that are not good for us anymore, not healthy, underneath those roles there can be so many feelings going on, like guilt, sacrifice, weariness, and feeling stuck in life. We can feel stuck in the role, the responsibilities, and the challenge to switch roles or drop the roles can be really hard. And we can also create protection roles, the role of teacher, healer, even the role of failure, the strong one. They can all serve to, protect us from a sense of inner heartbreak, intimacy, or shame and guilt. My role in my family was the invisible one. It was the one who always fails at everything. And it has been and still is a story I'm working on letting go of now. And I know people who have such a strong identity as the strong one in relationship to others. It could be a family member who takes the role as the strong patriarch, the one who's always fighting to protect, fighting for causes, but getting lost in the role so much that they lose their own sense of peace. Many roles are just so easy to get lost in, and even if we feel, I don't like this train and I want to get off, we can literally feel stuck in a role or identity that initially maybe was there to serve us. Feeling useful to others, being a practical person or a hard worker can all be roles that we fall into. The very roles that felt needed can become a burden because to keep up the role we get to the point where we are not receiving anything in return and feeling weary, worn out, and this can lead to burnout, incredible burnout. The roles we wear may have been created to protect us. A bit like a wall. They may protect us, but no longer let any good come into our lives or into our hearts. And the three main roles that we have are dependence, independence, and sacrifice. Now, I know in my life I have been in the role of dependence a lot, not feeling I could take care of my own needs, relying on others too much and believing that others know me more than I know myself. Independence as a role could be identified with the strong one in my family. These roles can keep us safe, but they also keep us separate from other people. They protect us, but they also stop us from intimacy or authenticity. A dependent role can, in the end, push us away from those very people we depend on. But the independent role can also keep people away, because we look like we're a force to be reckoned with, that we don't need help or support from other people. So it can be really difficult to get an understanding of what roles that we play and how are they paving the way for a more challenging life. And out of these three primary roles of dependence, independence, and sacrifice, this is where many of the major roles that we play in our family come from. You may have heard the archetypes. For example, the hero, the martyr, the scapegoat, the lost child, the mascot. Now, the hero roles it kind of defines the person who always needs to shine the brightest. They need to do the best and they need to save everyone. So for me, that would be the strong one in my family, or the rescuer type. It can often be a compensation for a sense of guilt in some way, which is often deeply stored within the unconscious. Now, the martyrs are the sacrificing people. They will sacrifice to give the family what they need. This can be where they drop their own needs altogether, and can sometimes be a role that stops another family member from being abused. So in a sense, they stand up as the sacrificial lamb to protect the rest of the siblings, for example. Now, my mum, I would say, she's a bit of her roles were probably victim and martyr. And I saw that a lot, sacrificing herself. But by doing so, the blame would come on to me from a victim role. So in a way, you can have more than one role and you can flip them, depending on what is going on inside of your mind, what unconscious pain is kind of spurring you on or needing to protect you further. Now, scapegoats in a family, they make sure they get into a lot of trouble. It could be the man or woman or boy or girl that gets in trouble at school and then later goes on to do crime. What they do is they take away any negativity from the family onto themselves. It's a great distraction, albeit a painful one. They're the problem child, the black sheep. Now, the lost child is the one that tries to become invisible. This was my role for a very long time. I thought I had to not shine or be seen to nourish my mother's low self-esteem. I guess in a way I was also the scapegoat because I was not getting into trouble, but I was classed as the black sheep because I kind of didn't fit in. So I played a couple of roles myself. And we can pick up roles from our parents. We may think that we're one role and then realise, oh, I'm being a bit of a martyr or a victim with my partner. Where did I get that from? You learned it from your parents, more than likely, or some significant other in your life. Now, the mascot is the entertainer. It is the comedian, the clown in the family, the one everyone in the family loves and cherishes. But this can come at a price. The family may love him or her, but the mascot themselves may rarely love themselves because they are trapped in an inauthentic role and mask. So they don't feel loved for who they really are, which is the dark and the light, not always the happy one. And I had a fair few friends when I was in college that were comedians. And most comedians I've met suffer from quite deep, dark depression and have had a lot of abuse or challenge in early life. And it was a really big protection. They were humorous, they were funny, they were great to be around, but once the lights were turned off on the stage and there was no audience, it really hit them hard. So carrying that role, while it might sound great to have a family that loves you, but they're generally not loving you for you. So letting that mask fall away must be really hard to be the mascot or the entertainer. And if a family has really strong roles that are not changing, like I've just mentioned, it can mean that the family has quite big problems and can be in many ways termed dysfunctional. But I think looking at the world we live in, a large segment of society is in this place. I don't know many, in quotes, normal families. I think every family has a a sense of dysfunction, some far more than others. And the only way this changes is when we begin to understand our roles and we begin to break them down and understand, what is it that I'm playing right now? What roles do we play? And we can choose to rewrite our script and see if stepping out of those roles can bring us a much more satisfying life experience. So there you go. That's a bit of in a nutshell about roles and the challenges that we go through by holding on to these roles. So what roles are you holding on to right now? And are you aware that you are playing a role? Maybe you're not. I thought I'd let go of a lot of my roles, but recently I've been thinking about it and I realise I have a role that's kind of unconscious that I'm not sure of right now that is holding me back. So this is the reason for this podcast. I'm questioning for myself also. So I hope this has helped you in some way to understand maybe why your life isn't as satisfying, maybe why you're feeling stuck, and where you can begin the process of understanding who you are and what you need in life, and what roles in your life need to change. So thanks for listening to another episode of Kelly Martin Speaks, and I'll be back next week. So until then, bye for now. You've been listening to my podcast, Kelly Martin Speaks. I'd really appreciate your feedback. If you're listening on iTunes, please give me a review. It helps me be seen and heard by those that need it. You can also follow me on kellymartinspeaks.co.uk, where you can read my blogs, find out about my book series, and subscribe to my monthly newsletter. I'm also all over social media, so search for me via Kelly Martin Speaks on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I'll speak to you next week. Bye.